6 years after Diepsloot got a new police station, community members are still vulnerable to crime. Police Minister Bheki Cele has downplayed criticism that the interventions made even just this week to deal with crime in the area have failed. Joining us now to unpack the various issues in this very complicated story is Godfrey Mulaudzi, who is with the Institute for Security Studies. Godfrey, it's great to have you with us on the program for your insights into, how the police minister and the rest of government deals with what's unfolding in Diepsloot. And we've seen it now. We know from just the past couple of days, deploying 16 additional vehicles is perhaps not the full answer.
Look, I think it is just unfortunate, Michelle and the viewers. I think it's unfortunate that it's a very reactionary way of policing on the part of the police, because the community of Diepsloot for quite some time have been complaining about the levels of crime in the area and also complaining about the activities of unscrupulous police officers in their communities. And this is the result that we see now, these vigilantism attacks in that community.
Godfrey, what do you make of the police's sort of explanation of the difficulties that they themselves face in policing a community like Diepsloot, where they talk about, the lack of spatial planning in Diepsloot and what it means for the police's ability to respond when communities do call for help? What do you make of that kind of explanation?
It is a valid point. It is a valid point. The rapid urbanization in the country and the setup of, if we were to specifically look at the community of Diepsloot, for example, it is difficult to police, not only to police, but these issues are interconnectedness. And you would see, we also highlight, we make this point in our finance monitor as well, that it's a broader issue from basic service delivery in the communities, lack of water, lack of electricity as well. And if, for example, there are no streets, there are no house numbers in that community, in those areas, particularly the informal settlement of Diepsloot. Now, if there are incidents, it becomes difficult for police to respond on time. Now, if there are interruptions in water and electricity, which the community of Diepsloot has also been in the streets protesting about lack of electricity in their areas. So these kind of issues, if there is no electricity, people take up to the streets, and when they go to the streets, a shop of Mohammed becomes a victim, becomes looted, right? So these issues are also interconnected. So I think it's a valid point that we need to take that.
Cele will be visiting the area today, the third time in as many days. He'll be joined by the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. In fact, it comes on the back of what happened in Diepsloot overnight, which saw several roadblocks set up in the area in a bid, it appears, in part to clamp down on undocumented foreign nationals. Given the tensions from this week, given the brutal murder of who we now know was a Zimbabwean national, Elvis Nyati, on Wednesday night, was that the correct and first form of action to be taken by government, to crack down on those without documents?
Look, like I said, Michelle, I think the government is being reactionary now, and they wait for incidents to happen and they react. And that's just unfortunate. But then I want to send condolences to Elvis Nyati's family, who lost his life as a result of this barbaric act of vigilantism. Now, if government were to do what they had to do and do it correctly, we will not be where we are today. Because the key drivers of this anarchy, basically, it is crime. It is issues of, if you look at people who mobilize the side of communities to start attacking people from other countries, particularly African brothers and sisters who are here to end their living, they would mobilize them with the side of, you are poor, they are here to take your jobs, they are here undocumented. And of course, you would have those who are probably here with that document. But the way these structures such as the Dula operation and many others, and many other formations in the communities, they are going about it is wrong. It is to be condemned. It's a threat to the rule of law. That is not the way to go about it. You don't just go into people's doors and knock and say, as mob, we want to see your papers. That is not the way to go about it. But unfortunately, government has dropped the ball, and I think this reflects the trust deficit from the community to the government as a whole as well. And we'll see now police, as you have said, minister is going there, Home Affairs is going there. But if they were doing their job correctly, they would not even need Bheki Cele as the minister to be there to start with. If the officials, the departments are doing things correctly. So I think that is where the unfortunate part of it is the government has dropped the ball.
Godfrey, is it beneficial and you'll excuse the framing of this question, but is it beneficial for government in a way to play into this narrative that foreign nationals are to blame for various issues? For example, the state of our healthcare system, because we're servicing a number of undocumented migrants, according to reports from just the past couple of weeks, the levels of service delivery in the country. Does it benefit government in a way to support this narrative because it's a form of scapegoating in terms of its own failings to deal with issues around service delivery, our hospitals, etc.?
It does not. I mean, I think government might think that that is how they escape the blame, but it does not do them justice, because to start with, the ball still falls in their court squarely, because these so-called border management agencies, the South African police services, have quietly failed, quite frankly, have failed our communities. Foreign nationals are not to blame, and I think we need to make it very clear, even to structures such as the Tuna operation and many other formations in communities that are engaging in this kind of activities, that they are a threat to the rule of law. And in fact, it is not the fault of foreign nationals who are here in the country. And because if you look at it, our communities, look, they have been mobilized on normal issues that we see on day-to-day basis, issues of unemployment, the socio-economic inequalities in their community. So that is a fertile ground to mobilize the communities. And I think that is where we have the so-called labor laws, minimum wage law that is already in place. But how often do we see the labor inspectors going to inspect these establishments to see if this has been complied with? The bar law enforcement in our communities, particularly in the big cities, in metros, how often do you see police taking up this enforcement in the streets? We hardly see that, and the result of this is when communities take matters into their own hands. And you will have seen also, if you may think it is far-fetched, it's not even far-dated, how now social formations, social movements in communities start to even contest elections on their own. Yeah. That is the lack of trust. They've realized that political system has failed them. They're disengaging from that system completely. Yeah. Police have failed them. You see these structures such as Dudula saying, yes, we are going to check this. We even go around with police because they may be raising the legitimate issues, but the way they're going about it, we need to condemn it. It's xenophobic. It's a threat to the rule of law. So I wanted to say, how best can we support the rule of law? Working with any of the social formations in the communities, with police as well, with government as a whole. But I think we need to make clear that there are number of police officers who are involved in unscrupulous activities in the communities. Their level of government officials, you could see week in, week out, they get arrested who are involved in unscrupulous activities.
I think your point is well made, Godfrey. I do apologize for interjecting there, but we've run out of time in this hour for this discussion. But thanks very much for weighing in. Godfrey Mulaudzi is with the Institute for Security Studies. Of course, it's an incredibly nuanced issue, which we are trying to unpack for you here on the program.